The following is brought to you by Bleacher Report. If you guys want to check out my live post-game reaction show, make sure to have the Bleacher Report app downloaded and ready to fire up right after the game. You'll find me in the Chargers section. Bolt up.
Yo to Bolt fam, it's the very sunburnt director. But you know what probably burns more than my face right now? The Broncos losing their first game to the Chargers at Mile High Stadium in 7 years. You know that's gotta burn, man. I don't know about you guys, but me as a Chargers fan, operating a little YouTube show and walking amongst the Broncos fans in my area too, I heard a lot of smack talk in my area. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna be one obnoxious fellow for the next 2 or 3 weeks here, man. Well, welcome to the show. It's your guy, the director. Sorry about all the technical difficulties. We got everything sorted out now. We're going to be talking about the Chargers taking on the Broncos at Mile High this week and ultimately walking away with the dub. Now, I got to say, it felt for a little while there like it was going to be a familiar story of despair. Chargers at the very end, we'll just say, made it interesting. Chargers will end up winning this one 23-16. But in my opinion, dude, this probably should have been more of like a 23-0 shutout or a 23-7. The Broncos did get pretty close there at the end. And I'm going to hear a lot of flack about, oh, the Chargers got bailed out at the last second. There was that call that should have been a no call or whatever. Guys, they also got bailed out as well. There was if I recall, a touchdown that wasn't a touchdown that ended up being called a touchdown. That really shouldn't have been a touchdown. So for all intents and purposes, we can all call it even. Say you lost fair and square. The Chargers are now back on top in Denver. I'm going to go make sure everything's good and square over here as well, too. Yeah, it looks like we're good to go. So let's go ahead and break down this game a little bit. Sorry to distract everybody with the severeness of the sunburn. But it should be a fun one anyway. The Chargers taking on the Broncos, winning it. So 23-16. The thing that I actually want to start the stream off with first, which in my opinion is a very, very important aspect to the Chargers season as a whole as it revolves around this game and the results of this game. For one, the Chargers did not look great on offense, especially going into this game, right? The Chargers got their bye week last week, and in that bye week, we were left with a lot of questions after losing to the Chiefs narrowly, after losing to the Steelers, largely because of a lackluster offense. A lot of us were wondering, is this it? Is the Chargers offense going to fizzle out without the premium offensive line that they've assembled? Of course, those guys not available in the last game. Are we going to be nothing if we can't run the ball? Are we run and done? Like, is there no Justin Herbert redemption this season? Has he regressed to a point where he's more of a game manager? He's not the same Justin Herbert of old. A lot of questions going into the bye week. Chargers fans weren't happy. The offense looked sloppy. And ultimately, there was a lot of reason to believe that the Chargers are not going to be the same team that all of us were hyping up, at the start of the season with Jim Harbaugh and the 2 wins to start off the season, right? There was a lot of question marks going into that bye week, I should say. Now on the other side of the bye week, the Chargers come into this game. Looks like they wanted to lean a little bit more into the identity of Justin Herbert and the Chargers previous this season. Let's let Herbert cook. Let's let Herbert throw the football. Let's find success behind this top-paid quarterback in the NFL and let him do his thing. There was a good mix of run, but ultimately it felt like the Chargers went into that bye week. They really looked over what was wrong with the offense. They really figured out this is kind of what we want to do to adjust, and they did just that. They adjusted. They went in. They came out the other side better. And as Chargers fans, I got to tell you, that's not something that I'm used to. As a Chargers fan of the last, however many seasons, you see the Chargers go into a situation. Let's even use halftime as an example here and say to yourself, hey, dude, we're going to come right back out doing the same exact thing, hoping for different results. A lot of the times, that's going to bite you in the butt, right? We're shooting yourselves in the foot all of a sudden. And you see that result in a lot of choked games, right? The Chargers really getting known as the chokers, right? The Los Angeles Chokers. I've heard that a couple of times. You see the team really struggling to find an identity because they just can't maintain a lead. They're blowing it in the fourth quarter. That's kind of what we were for the longest time. But what they did in this bye week is representative of what Jim Harbaugh is, in my opinion. He's a good football coach, man. He's not going to go in doing the same thing. He's going to figure it out. He's going to find a way. He's going to adjust. If there's a problem on the offense, whether he's buddy or not with the OC, he's going to address it. He's going to figure it out. Even if it goes against what his vision is, let's say being that run-first team that really finds a lot of success behind J.K. Dobbins and this awesome line. Hey, if the strength of this offense right now resides behind Justin Herbert and his ability to throw, if that's the best way you're going to win football games offensively, then by heck, we're going to make sure to do it that way. All right? So what Jim Harbaugh proved to me is that despite whatever the fourth quarter jitters that we got in this game, despite all of that, he is a different era of the Chargers football for us as fans. This wasn't the same Chargers walking into the bye week and coming out doing the same old stuff. This really did reflect adjustment. Herbert was back for a majority. I think he ended up throwing for more yards this game than he has all season by a long shot. 237 yards may seem like, an average day in the life of Justin Herbert previous 2024. But this season, he's really struggled to get even 150 yards behind this offense. 237 yards is a vast improvement and shows trust in what is working for the Chargers offense right now. Because I think in the end, it's going to take some time to assemble the Avengers, to find all the right pieces, to become that dominant running team that you want to become. It may take some time, and it feels like the Chargers took a step back and said, hey, we're going to lean into the DNA of this defense a little bit from last season, let Justin Herbert cook, while also introducing a little flair of what we want on offense with a rushing J.K. Dobbins, who ultimately, what did he go for? Did Dobbins pick up a catch this week? No, but almost 100 yards and a touchdown. That is what the Jim Harbaugh Chargers of the future want to look like. We want a Hundy, maybe more every week on the ground, some scores. We want to be that lethal ground team. But also, you're seeing the Chargers 237 and a touchdown through the air. Lean into the DNA of Justin Herbert a little bit. Hey, we got this awesome quarterback. We're going to find a rhythm. We're going to find an identity that works for what we have on the roster right now. And hey, maybe next season, Ashton Genty is a Charger, right? The whole identity of the offense flips. We got a much more successful version of, what the run game wants to look like behind Jim Harbaugh. Maybe by the time we've had a little more time to assemble the pieces, we do resemble maybe a little bit more of a Jim Harbaugh team. But this team this week was really impressive to me in their ability to adjust. And as a Chargers fan, knowing that the Denver Broncos defense is very good, knowing that it was going to be a very tough matchup for the Chargers via division, rivalry, knowing that Justin Herbert is not 100%, knowing that a lot of the Chargers players coming off an injury are going to be shaking off some rust, it was really good to see the offense firing on all cylinders. And honestly, again, above all else, I was very impressed with the ability for the Chargers to change. I love a lot of the Chargers coaches that we've seen previous as people, right? Especially Anthony Lynn. I thought Anthony Lynn, in terms of character and leadership, had everything you wanted in a coach, but the man was kind of stubborn. He didn't want to change. And heck, we had the ultimate example of that in Brandon Staley, just last season, the last several seasons, in a very stubborn, you're going to dig your heels in and this is what we are. No, Jim Harbaugh finds a way to both exist as what he wants to be as well as what the team allows you to be. And that adjustment, I think, led to the victory today. And ultimately is going to help kind of bump this team into a more favorable and successful team as a whole going forward. Now let's go ahead and take a look at some of the stuff that we had in terms of stats this week, because again, honestly, I feel really good all of a sudden. The Chargers' schedule looks really, really nice for the next several weeks. We might even take a look at that here in a second. But in terms of stats that reflect a good Chargers football game, I think, again, we have to kind of point things out at the offense. The offense. The biggest, thorn in my side, the biggest worry on my team went out there and put up a pretty good performance. Justin Herbert, 21 of 34. 34 passing attempts. Yes. That's what I want to see. A good, healthy amount of run and pass. It's a little bit more skewed towards the talent you have on the roster via your quarterback. I really like it. That feels more run balanced. That's going to go for 237 yards and a touchdown. Yes, he did have the 3 sacks. Yes, there's a very good Denver, pass rush coming at you this week. But it was a really good week for Justin Herbert, probably his best of the season so far. I want to see more of that. That's reflective of a really, really good offense that understands what you are. Then on the ground, again, still a really good run game. right? Definitely over 100 yards on the ground. Sure, 3.8 is not what you want, but it's not terrible. I'll take it in comparison to Chargers teams of the past. We got the touchdown. I know J.K. Dobbins was on my fantasy football team in a lot of different leagues. I was very happy to see him on my squad. He picked up a good amount of points. 25 attempts, very healthy. Then you got this other kid, this other guy coming in, the rookie Kamani Vidal, who blasted onto the scene. He's going to be a big part of this team going into the future. Sure, only 4 carries for 11 yards. That's 2.8. That's not the best. But look what he did, and this is where a lot of people think he's going to shine. Kamani Vidal, 2 targets, 2 receptions, 40 yards, and a touchdown. Yes, sir. Also a very good pass-protecting running back. Kamani Vidal, welcome to the NFL. First touch ever as a pro goes for a touchdown. You saw his ability to break tackles. You saw his speed on display. Kamani Vidal looks really good. Very excited to see that rookie unleashed. Very, very, very nice. In terms of rushing, again, you had, Davis getting involved a little bit more. Hassan Haskins got a couple of things at work, but really running the show through J.K. Dobbins is what this team is going to be. You continue mixing it in with a healthy dose of Justin Herbert. I think we're kind of starting to figure out what this offense is and where we should continue to lean. Let Justin Herbert cook. Despite all the concerns of the wide receivers and all that kind of stuff, we still have Justin Herbert. He can elevate talent. He did just that today. Don't ever give up on the run game, though, because that's what you are. That's what you built. And that's something that, again, worked for us in this instance. I think, again, just this frame right here, the Herbert 237 and the rushing for over 100, that's what we need to be. The run balance squad. That still lives and dies behind Justin Herbert, but heck, we're still a really good running football team. I felt really good about that. Now, receiving. This is where you're going to see a lot of Chargers fans barking. I see somebody in the chat talking about this right now, and it's something I promise you that we're going to talk about. Let's take a look at some of the star receivers for the Chargers this week. Simi Fehoko. Actually, he was awesome. He looked really good. Clutch catch out there. I think he helped extend a drive that ultimately helped us win. He looks pretty good in terms of a depth receiver. A depth receiver, mind you. 4 targets, 2 receptions, 44 yards. Not bad. Ladd McConkey, who was getting pinballed around, man. This guy was getting beat up all day. All right? 8 targets, 4 receptions, 43 yards. Definitely not bad. He needs more time to sink, more time. Honestly, he was getting banged up so much I was worried that he was going to see even less playing time. Maybe even next week we have to keep an eye on that. But I do think right now Ladd McConkey is wide receiver 1, and that's great. Ladd McConkey is a great talent, a great wide receiver, and I think that he's going to continue to develop in his rookie year. And in terms of efficiency, he looks awesome. Look at this average of 10 yards per catch. Like, he's great. We just got to continue to lean in towards that with Justin Herbert. And I think Ladd McConkey ultimately does need some help. And that's what the chat's talking about right now. We kind of do need to find a veteran, maybe even wide receiver 1 dominant player for this team. And there's a lot of options out there. And it might even be something that you see more here on Bleacher Report, right? There's a lot of talk about Amari Cooper getting moved. The Chargers should be players in that, at least on the phone. Of course, Davante Adams gets talked about a lot. I think the chances of that are pretty slim, right? But hey, you never know. Another likely option, DeAndre Hopkins could be a really good veteran option out here. There's avenues the Chargers can take to help better their situation at wide receiver. And why it's even more interesting right now is that the trade deadline is coming up. What, 2 or 3 weeks away, right? It's almost here. And the Chargers, I do believe at this point now, 3-2, should be players in a trade at some point. You need help. Whether or not you want to admit it or not, or be a running team or not, or whatever, the Chargers do kind of still need that wide receiver 1. It's not going to take away too much for Ladd McConkey. It's going to help him. It's going to elevate him. Of course, Quentin Johnson's not looking too bad either, but they're still missing that one piece. I'm all about Amari Cooper. I'm all about even DeAndre Hopkins. I'm a huge Nuke Hopkins fan, man. I'm a big fan. Like, even though he's not the same player, right, from Texas or Arizona or anything like that, I would be giddy as a football fan to have him on my squad. Makes less sense financially, but it is reflective of the kind of player that you want in your squad. I feel like DeAndre Hopkins and Davante Adams, 2 of the best wide receivers in football of the last decade, both went to situations where they were going to flat out suck and now are regretting it. Should find a better home in a place exactly like what the Chargers are offering. Hey, we got an awesome defense. It's not all on your shoulders. Hey, we got a good run game. You're going to see some quality targets. Hey, we got an awesome quarterback in Justin Herbert. This is an awesome situation for a wide receiver. And a lot of these receivers, including Devontae Adams, are in situations where maybe they got a little bit of pool of where they go to. Again, I don't think Adams is going to come here. We made fun of him too much via the Pop-Tarts. But you never know, okay? And that's why I think the Chargers, again, in the next couple of weeks, should be players at wide receiver in terms of a trade. Whatever you got to do, let's get somebody on the team because this is a year worth fighting for. The Chargers at 3-2 have a pretty nice schedule coming up. Can I actually click on this and go here? Yeah. Let's take a look at their schedule. Look at this, dudes. It's crazy. Chargers, I did expect to win this game. Got interesting at the end, like I said. But we win, right? Chargers win. That puts us at 3-2. We look pretty good. The Cardinals, that feels like a very winnable game. Again, don't count your chickens or your Cardinals or whatever before they hatch. That feels like a very winnable game. All of a sudden, you're looking at 4-2. The Saints, who are now with a rookie quarterback in Spencer Rattler, right? Who could end up being something. That feels like a winnable game. Now you're looking at 5-2. The Browns, they've disintegrated into nothing. They've collapsed into themselves like a neutron star. That looks like a very winnable game, right? All of a sudden, you're looking at 6-2. Titans suck. Bengals could be better, right? This stretch of games is an awesome opportunity for the Chargers to establish some dominancy and get some momentum. I think a veteran leader wide receiver could really help nudge you in the right direction there. That's why I think it should happen sooner than later. Don't wait until the trade deadline, right? Maybe situations are better at that point, whatever. I think it would be good to bring in that talent now because this season is worth playing for. You will very realistically and by not too much of a stretch of the imagination, be like a 6-2 team pretty soon here. It's an awesome schedule, and I don't want to waste it. Let's get some more talent on the Chargers roster via the offense to really help out Justin Herbert and ultimately McConkey and Quentin Johnston. You're looking at a second and first-year wide receiver to carry the Chargers passing game? No. Let's bring in a vet. Let's make sure that the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, and we've got, a proper balance of experience and talent at each, level of the roster. And that goes especially for tight end as well. I don't know about you guys, but I honestly, me personally, you get a tight end at the caliber of like a Mark Andrews, who I would be gunning for if the Chargers can get their hands on him, right? It feels like they're going into the Isaiah Likely era. You can get your hands on a guy like Mark Andrews, a premium tight end in the league, a Trey McBride. Of course, you can't trade for those guys, but I'm just giving you guys examples of like a good wide receiver quarterback, tandem. I think that's going to help out the offense tremendously. You got another quality blocker in there. That's why I want Mark Andrews so bad. I'm giddy to that thought. Mark Andrews gives you more help in the run game and a quality receiver in the passing game, someone that you could really, really lean on in terms of of identity on offense. You want to be a run team, that's going to help in both areas. I love it. I don't know. So I think a veteran wide receiver, very realistic. Tight end, a little bit tougher to swing, but one that I would certainly swing for. Tight ends are great to draft, but they take a while to develop, at least in the old ways. I don't know about now. You're seeing some big talent, come in right away swinging. I don't know. I would be players. That's all I'm going to say. Chargers have an awesome schedule. They got a good opportunity. They're off to a good start at 3-2. I think at this point, if you're Joe Ortiz, you say, hey, let's go fight for it. Let's go fight for the postseason and get ourselves a complete roster that right now is really missing a wide receiver and is honestly really missing a tight end one. Will Dissly with the 5 targets, 4 receptions for 26 yards. It is what it is. You could see better. All right. Finally, to help kind of wrap up the stream, the Broncos. Now, this is another aspect of the Chargers that has been consistent, and you saw a continuation of the consistency this week in terms of their defense. Their defense has been amazing. They continued this week up until like the last part. There was some more injuries. Asante Samuel Jr. now on injured reserve. Jasir Taylor wasn't active for this game. You saw Christian Fulton out for a little while in this game. You saw Joey Bosa not active this game. Chargers defense is banged up, but still playing awesome. They still logged the 2 sacks. They got the interception via Elijah Molden. They got the forced fumble via Khalil Mack and Tier Tart. Like, the defense is still playing lights out. They look great, right? Despite everything. I will give Bo Nix some credit here, though, man. He found something that works for him versus the Chargers, and it is something that I was a little bit worried about. The 216 through the air and 2 touchdowns, that's pretty good for a rookie. But this is what's got me most concerned, is the 61 yards on the ground. Sure, some of it was kind of crazy desperation. Chargers playing a little more conservative, whatever. That's a total of almost 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, and interception. I don't like seeing that versus the Chargers. Now, the Broncos have a much more difficult time playing the Chargers at SoFi Stadium. So I do expect them to be able to, hold their ground a little better at that point, especially if they have some time behind them where they can get some of their players back from IR or whatever. But Bo Nix, he's turning into something. I'm not going to lie. As a Chargers fan, I will freely admit it. Bo Nix from this quarterback class, not bad. This quarterback class, all of a sudden, looking real familiar. The Chargers fandom, we come from the draft class of Justin Herbert and Jalen Hurts and Tua Tagovailoa and Joe Burrow. We get it. It feels very familiar right now. Bo Nix looks great. Caleb Williams looks awesome. Of course, everybody loves Jaden Daniels. There's some talent there, and I think Bo Nix is developing into something. But the Chargers, their defense, they didn't let it get too far. It got a little scary there at the end, but they took care of business as usual. They completely pummeled them outside of the quarterback into the ground when it came to rushing the football, too. I loved seeing that. You take away Bo, what do you got? Even 50 yards? I don't think so, right? That's crazy. Maybe even barely. That's awesome. That's a great Chargers defense. Receiving, yeah, you went a little crazy at the end there with Sutton and whoever this Vele guy is. Franklin kind of went crazy there too for a second, but it wasn't nothing we couldn't handle. It didn't reflect a bad or poor defense. Just kind of the way the division game got funky there at the end. I don't know. Chargers defense did their job. Jesse Minter has been a savant of the defense this season. He continued that this week. Gilman played great. Henley and Colston, that tandem of linebacker, him and Denzel Perryman as well. The Chargers linebackers look as good as ever. Of course, Molden got the interception. Derwin James was back. He looked great. Some of the rookie action and Cam Hart looked awesome. Where is he? Tareeb Still. Where is Still? There he is. Tareeb Still looked incredible this week as well. The Chargers got something here, man. They really do. And that's why I feel like when you take a look at the schedule, you take a look at the needs on offense, you take a look at you take a look at some of the resources that they've got. They've been churning away at the compensatory pick formula. They may have means to go out there and make some moves. They have a little bit of money to spend. I'm about it, man. You're one or two pieces away from being a pretty scary team for the rest of the year. You got a really good schedule in front of you to take real good advantage of all that. That's all I'm going to say, man. I feel pretty confident that this season is well worth fighting for, and that this game was very reflective of that. The Broncos are no pushovers, man. I said this in my preview. I'm going to say it again. The Broncos have been underrated. They've been sneaky good. They've been awesome on defense. Bo is starting to heat up a little bit. The offense is figuring themselves out. They got a great coach in Sean Payton, right? I feel, and again, I hate saying this because I hate the Broncos, but I understand their perspective because as Chargers fans, we feel very slept on. We feel that this team doesn't get the proper respect they deserve because they're very unproven. They're still figuring it out. And that for whatever reason, it goes unnoticed by a majority of the league and its fans. Broncos are kind of the same way. They have a lot of pieces that do point towards success, but they need time. And right now it kind of feels like they're sort of figuring it out. They've got a very underrated defense. The offense is starting to catch its footing, but the Chargers still went into Mile High and beat them, and that counts for something. People keep discrediting the Raiders win. That counts for something. They beat the Carolina Panthers the way they were supposed to beat a down-and-out team. That counts for something. The Chargers are for real. I still think they need some work. I think there's some stuff to figure out. I think you need a little bit more talent on the offensive side of the football via wide receiver. But, hey, I think we're close. So you guys in the comment section below, let me know what you think. I think the Chargers walk away victorious despite a kind of messy ending there. A little heart, attacks in the fourth quarter like we're used to as Chargers fans, but they got away with the win. That's what's most important. And I think finally the Chargers do have a coaching staff that's willing to adjust. I think we're going to start seeing us getting a little bit better every single week, which is a really good sign. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. If you like what you saw here, hit us up with a follow here on Bleacher Report. We'll see you next time. And as always, bolt up and stay frosty.